So I know a lot of you roll your eyes whenever you hear the term high value man. Right? I know many of you are disgusted by that discussion, okay? And for good reason. I completely understand. And the reality is that so many different people have different perceptions of what makes a high value man and all that kind of stuff. But we're not going to get into the high value part. I thought it would be good to discuss the flip side of this, which is the quote unquote low value man. Now, let me say this just for the record. I don't want you to hear the word low value and view it as like some, what's the word I'm looking for? Some derogatory way of looking at men. That's not the case here, right? And I do believe that everybody deserves to be loved. Repeat, everybody deserves to be loved. But do not confuse loving someone with giving them the benefits of a relationship. All right? Because the reality, unfortunately, is that though that man may deserve love, he may not qualify for a relationship yet. And again, that's not to speak on him in a derogatory way. That's just to highlight the reality is that he's not at a place where he can create a successful, healthy relationship with you. And it would be a mistake on your part to enter into that dynamic with him. And I see that mistake being made by women all of the time because they think, well, if I love him, if I care about him, if I think he has potential, then okay, I'll give him this relationship and we'll work on these other things in the meantime, only to end up getting burned by that and paying a huge price. So I'm going to lay out these quote unquote low value traits that I want you to be mindful of. But again, look at low value in the sense of he is not ready to be in a relationship, as in he does not qualify. Bottom line, he does not qualify. And some of these may be surprising to you, but let's just get to it. So one of the sneaky signs he's a low value man is he tends to want to argue with women. Now, I had to put this on here as number one. Not saying it's the biggest one, but I'm just going to explain this from my perspective. As a man myself, I hate when I see men who tend to have this, they want to argue with women. They just continuously go back and forth. And let me make clear, there's a difference between arguing and having discussions, all right? Because I have friends, male friends, who they love having discussions. They love good, healthy debate, right? But that's with anyone. They'll have that discussion with man, woman, whatever. That's just the type of person they are. But arguing is someone who carries more of a negative energy behind it. A little bit more vitriolic, a little bit more attacking, right? Quick to be insulting, condescending, things that throw shade, right? And so I see it a lot on the internet where I see these men who have this tendency to want to argue with women and go back and forth. And I think what I have found is that it speaks to something deeper going on with that man. He may have tons of great qualities, right? He may, on paper, look like he's a good candidate to be in a relationship with. But if he has a tendency to want to argue with women, something in my eyes is off. Something is wrong there, okay? And there might be men who will disagree with this, but I stand on this because I see it all the time. One of the common things that I find that is wrong is that typically the man who always is quick to argue with a woman carries a bitterness against women, all right? And that bitterness, for example, can come from he has had many negative experiences with women. Like I've had this guy, because let me say it like this. I have a lot of male friends who, whether they're married now, single, were men that when they were available, they had plenty of good experiences with women, right? They didn't have a problem getting women. Doesn't mean they got every woman they wanted, but they have a above average track record with women, right? And none of my friends have that bitterness, angry, whatever you want to call it, towards women. Because when you have that many good experiences to pull from, you're just not going to look at women in this negative light. It doesn't mean you may not identify certain common issues with women and things of that nature, but in general, they have a positive, energy towards women. And so when they meet a new woman, they carry that same positive energy and, things tend to work out fine. But the man who has had more negative experiences, whether it be he's gotten rejected a lot, maybe he's gotten played really bad, he never gets the woman that he wants, whatever it is, or he tends to not get that woman or feels very overlooked, many of those guys build up a lot of resentment, right? And even when some of these men reach a point of becoming more successful, becoming more desirable, having more success with women, they never let go of their resentment towards them. It's almost like, oh, okay, you didn't want me back then. I forgot what that song was, but you didn't want me back then, but now you want me now. Oh, I'm going to make y'all pay, right? And it drives them to want to come into conflict with women a lot, which leads to the constantly arguing with women. So that's just an example. There could be more reasons. Some of it could be due to unhealthy relations with their own mother, right? That can create that dynamic or contribute to it as well. Either way, as a woman, I think it's important for you to be aware. When you see that, it ain't just something to overlook and think it's cute or whatever, right? It's a problem that needs to be addressed. Again, I never believe in telling y'all that if you recognize a red flag, just run from it. No, talk to the man, because it might be a misunderstanding. It might be something fixable. You might catch him arguing with one woman, and it might just be there's a tension between him and that individual for a very specific reason, but he's not like that with all women in general or with a lot of women in general. But if you see it's a constant pattern, yeah, again, have a discussion, but it's definitely a sign that I would put under low value man. All right. So another sneaky sign of a low value man is he doesn't have any drive or purpose in his life. So, as you may or may not know, I've been coaching people for over 15, 16 years now. I've seen a lot of different situations, a lot of different scenarios. And one of the common things I have seen is that when a man lacks purpose or drive in his life, it is an open door for a lot of nonsense to come. Okay? Reason being, there's so much we can unpack here. And I'm gonna try to run down a few things. One, let's just start with the fact that for the vast majority of women, if not all women, you are turned off by a man who lacks purpose, vision, drive. Or it's better to say you are more turned on and intrigued by men who have it. It feels safer with a man who has something going on in his life, knows how to handle his business, and that's what the majority of women desire. And so a lot of women, though you desire that, sometimes will overlook that man lacking those things. And again, thinking that maybe it's something that he will develop over time or that you can help him with, right? And some women have been successful. But for every success story, I can give you 1,000 more disasters. And what people don't understand about the success stories is that she wasn't successful because she poured into that man, right? And she did all the right things to push his buttons. She was successful because she was fortunate that the man she was doing it with possessed the desire, and maybe she helped magnify it, she helped nurture it, she helped support it, but he had it in him, okay? That's very different from trying to pull it out of someone that it doesn't exist in. And what I've learned as an entrepreneur, and you can talk to tons of successful people, plenty of people who have been successful, and you may have experienced this. You could give someone else, man or woman, the blueprint on how to achieve success. You can give them the resources, the finances, the support, everything, and they do nothing with it. And they don't achieve half of what they could have achieved. because you are trying to give things or pour into someone that doesn't have the foundational piece of desire and purpose. Okay? So, going back to the man, him not having that can lead to a lack of fulfillment, can lead to you feeling drained while trying to pull something out of him that does not exist, right? But let's go beyond that. Because some women might say, well, I'm good. He's doing enough to where he can handle his half of the bills or whatever, however you like to do things, right? So maybe you don't need him to want more or have that drive. Problem is, if the man who doesn't have drive and purpose, who may have found a level of stability right now, if anything falls off, he loses that job, whatever, he'll be the man that just ends up sitting at home letting you take care of everything. And I know some of you have seen that before, where you thought he was cool, but then when he lost his job, and again, people fall on hard times, people struggle, but there's a difference between the man who struggles and is trying to dig himself out of that hole and the man who's just like, all right, I'm just going to sit back and let you handle it, right? The guy who does not have drive and purpose will sit back and let you handle it. But again, let's go another step. What I have seen is I think there's a lot of different things that can lead to infidelity in a relationship, okay? And we're not going to break down that whole dynamic right now. But what I will tell you is lack of purpose in a man can contribute to a greater likelihood of infidelity at some point, all right? Because again, I've seen this happen, and I'll paint one picture for you, one kind of picture. You have this man and woman, they get together, let's say they even get married. He doesn't have that drive, he doesn't have that purpose. And even though she tries to tolerate him, because unfortunately that's what happens in a lot of marriages. The woman, and even the man at times, they're just tolerating their partner. And let me say at times, a lot of times, it's happening on both sides. But anyways, let's focus on the man for a second. She's just tolerating him, right? But when you are tolerating a man, you aren't going to be as sexually attracted to him. You're not going to have the same level of respect for him, right? There's a lot that's going to go left. With that, him still as a human being and as a man wanting to feel desired, loved, validated, whatever, he's not going to be able to get that from you because he's not showing up in a way that even ignites that in you, right? But there's always other people somewhere that will, because let's say he goes out or he's out for getting something to eat or maybe at work, right? If he has a job at that time, there's a woman who only knows the surface of him, does not know the deeper parts of him that you are dealing with, right? So she doesn't know the lack of drive and lack of purpose he has. So on the surface, he still looks like a desirable mate to somebody, okay? So someone's going to come along starting to compliment, pour into him, stroke his ego, whatever the case may be. One thing leads to another, boom, infidelity. Now, again, I'm painting one way it can happen. There's a lot of different ways. And of course, this doesn't dismiss that some people are just cheaters, regardless of any of this stuff. But that lack and drive of purpose is going to cause that man, is going to contribute to a lot of men seeking more outside of their home. All right? Because they're not gaining fulfillment from what they do and how they're living their life. So that void is going to be filled some way, somehow. So again, there's a lot I can explain here, but the bottom line is yes, if he's lacking drive and purpose, sign of a low value man, and you cannot trick yourself into believing you can create that in him. Even if you think he has that potential, then that potential needs to be discovered through friendship. And then once discovered and the foundation is there, then we can discuss potential romantic relationship. All right. So here's another sneaky sign of a low value man. And I am a little hesitant to put this one under the low value category, but let's just talk about it. That next sign is extreme neediness. Okay. So there's nothing wrong with people who value relationship and closeness and being together and spending lots of quality time with each other, I think that can be a beautiful thing, right? Within the right relationship. I do believe that I have come to the conclusion or the belief that there are people out there who have a greater need for that closeness, and there's other people that have a greater need for a level of freedom and flexibility in their relationship, right? And it would be wise for you don't want to put together the one who needs their freedom with the person who's really big on closeness. That I'm not saying it can never work, but there tends to be a lot of clashing there. They got to find people that are cut from their same cloth. But the reason why I did put extreme neediness on here, and again, it's going to be up to different individuals on what they might consider extreme. You know, what one woman thinks is too much, the next woman thinks that's perfect. So it's going to be up to you as an individual. But when it is extreme, and I'll just say from the perspective of most people would look at it and say, yeah, that's a bit much. The reason why I put that under low value is because, again, these things are typically symptoms of something deeper going on. And that extreme neediness, right? Always needing you to be around, always needing you to do for them, to constantly lean on you and pull from you. One can stem from a lot of insecurity, right? So you got to ask yourself, okay, are they this needy and even clingy to me because they're afraid that they're not, like, they don't want to let me breed because they're afraid if they let me breed, I'm going to find somebody else. That's not healthy. Like, there's nothing wrong with two people who just love being with each other and spending crazy amounts of time with each other. But if any of it is born out of an insecurity or a fear, that's a problem, because it's not going to just stop there. It's going to spread into other things and become a problem. Also, if there's extreme neediness, depending on what those needs are, it will have me question, okay, can this man fend for himself? And if he can't, is he looking for a partner or is he looking for a mother? All right? Because there are a lot of men out there who cannot do for themselves at this moment, who need someone to lean on. And so they will latch on to any woman that they can, because whether they need a place to stay, they need someone who can feed them, they need somebody who can wash their clothes, whatever the case may be, like, they're just like, I need somebody there to take care of me. And again, for some women, that may not be a big deal to you. That might be, well, I'm cool. I don't mind doing, I like doing those things. If that works for you, more power to you, right? But again, I will say this, make sure there's reciprocation going on. If you're doing all those things, what are you getting in return, right? Are you being poured back into in the ways that you need? If you are, great. If you're not, that's the problem. But either way, again, that neediness, you always want to dig deeper as to what is driving this right now. Because also, again, going back to the insecurities, sometimes extreme neediness is extreme manipulation. All right. It is a way to control you. It's a way to keep you close. It's a way to make sure I'm keeping tabs on you. Right. And again, that's coming from typically something unhealthy. Now, I'm thinking about a relationship I was counseling recently where there was a guy who, you know, he expects a certain level of checking in and, you know, certain boundaries, or like, you can't be talking to men or you can't be doing this, whatever the case may be, right? And I had to explain to him, like, listen, man, because I said, I don't operate that way. I'm very free spirit. Do what you want. Just, you know, if you disrespect, that's a problem. But other than that, I'm not stressing every little thing. But that doesn't make me right or wrong. That doesn't make him right or wrong. We have different styles. What's important for him to understand is he has to find a woman who aligns with that style of going about relationships, right? So I say that to say, again, all of this will always boil down to what actually works for you and doesn't. You got to have that discussion, but do not force yourself to accept something that you cannot sustain. So if his level of neediness, clinginess, whatever, is at a point where it's exhausting you, right? But let's say initially you're like, man, but this is a great guy. He has so many other great qualities. I don't want to mess this up. So let me just try to work with this. That's a mistake because you can't sustain it. And it's going to drain you. And at some point, there will be resentment, there will be frustration, there will be annoyance, and then things will fall apart anyway. So be honest with yourself up front about what you can and cannot deal with, and be real with that man. And if it doesn't work for the both of y'all, then we move on to other things. Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here, and I'll see you there. So let me start off by clearing any misconception or confusion here. I don't have any kids, okay? So when you read the title, some of y'all may say, well, wait a minute, Stephan got a daughter? No.